Back again with another video, Dave Firestone. And last week I regaled you with the tale of the hydrated frat boy shenanigans that almost got us evicted from our dorm in college. We're going to shift gears, talk about a bit more positive story that does have kind of a funny twist to it. So, our university ministry had the option to take what are known as service immersions over spring break. And basically, you would pay, I think it was like $140. You'd drive to somewhere where volunteer work was needed, and you would volunteer for your entire spring break. And these were always a lot of fun. They were productive, and they looked good on resumes. And $140 for a week of travel, food included, ain't exactly something that you can find a lot these days. So I did a whole bunch of them, but we're going to focus on one particular place I went to in 2003 called Cranks Creek, Kentucky. We drove to this unincorporated area in Kentucky to stay at the Cranks Creek Survival Center, which was at the time operated by Becky and Bobby Simpson. I know Bobby has since passed on. I don't know if Becky is still alive. And we would volunteer there for a week, and they had like a whole dormitory set up where it's like they had a room full of beds and all that good stuff. So it wasn't like we were sleeping on the floor, because in other ones we've slept in churches, we've slept in basements, I slept in a equipment facility one time where I was using the skid of a forklift as a pillow. They don't make good pillows. But we were there for a week, and we were doing basically Habitat for Humanity-esque stuff. It wasn't so much through Habitat for Humanity itself, but it was just through the survival center. So this particular day was a Wednesday, as I was looking through my notes about the trip when I was making this video. And what had happened was we were supposed to get some supplies to finish the building we were doing, but for reasons I can't really say that I'm shocked about, the supplies weren't going to make it until Friday. And this is a small town, don't get me wrong, but it's not like it's a small town in the middle of nowhere and you have to drive 50 miles to find the nearest gas station. We were relatively close to a decent area with a Walmart and a Home Depot and just some strip malls. So it wasn't like we were in the middle of nowhere. So what we were going to do on Friday was we were going to do just a sightseeing tour of the area, just check out some of the sites. And because of the delay, we decided, okay, instead of doing the sightseeing on Friday, we're going to do it on Wednesday. So we went to a few coal mining museums, and there's one coal mining museum that I took a bunch of pictures at, but for the life of me, I can't find any information about it because I don't remember what it's called. But it was this very intricate coal mining history museum where they had a lot of artifacts, a lot of cool stuff. You have a pretty big history of coal mining in the area, because Kentucky, especially that area, was big on coal mining. And this museum also had a decent-sized collection of Loretta Lynch stuff, which may or may not have been moved to her house in the museum in her original ranch. I don't know. I'm not saying one way or the other. I really don't. If I could say yes one way or the other, I could, but I can't. So we then traveled to the town of Lynch, Kentucky, which has, I believe, 900 some odd people living there. And we go to their coal mining museum, which isn't so much preservation of artifacts in a building. This was an actual mine. And they had a bunch of equipment that was outside that was used in coal mining. And then you would go into the mine itself, which was dark. And you would listen to a former miner tell stories about how mining used to work and blah, blah, blah. It was actually pretty interesting. And You know, it's again, obviously this is March, so it's not exactly like mid-July, so it's raining and it's drizzling. And so you walk out of the coal mine, and then you walk across a bridge across a river that was sulfur with a little bit of water in it. I think is the best way I can think of to describe that place, because the whole place, just the whole way across the river just reeked of sulfur. And you would come out on the other side of this bridge and you'd go to the other part of this museum, which is a fish hatchery. For those of you who have never heard the term or have ever seen one, basically it's a fish hatchery which is designed to replenish supplies of fish to local populations. So we're in this town of 900 people at the town's main attraction, the Fish Hatchery / Coal Mining Museum. And we did have a good time, actually. And we go to get in our van to go to the next setup, and that's when we realized we locked our keys in our van. So we have to call the Lynch, Kentucky Police Department. Now, I don't know what I was expecting for when this officer showed up, but I wasn't expecting what actually showed up. Because he did show up in a Pursuit Special, fully marked. He's wearing a police shirt and blue jeans, and he's drinking tea out of a ceramic mug. And I'm trying not to laugh at this point, because this is just one of the more surreal things I've been a part of. And he unlocks the truck. It doesn't take him all that long. Unlocks the van. Doesn't take him all that long. And we were just chit-chatting with him, a little bit after that. Because let's be honest, this isn't exactly a major hub for crime here. And we were just chatting with him about, he was a big CSI fan, but he was also very well versed in how CSI works in real life. And so he was interesting to talk to. And then he says something that to this day, I don't understand this logic here. He's talking about how he wants to get the police department. And again, I don't know how many people this department has. I can't imagine it's all that many. To approve putting $60 murder CSI kits, $60 worth of equipment you need to solve murders, as standard equipment on all their cars. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, this is a town of less than 1,000 people. How many murders do you have per year where you feel justified spending that much money on a kit like that? I mean, it would be one thing if we were talking about Chicago. Okay, we have more than enough murders in this area, fine. But this is a town of 900 people in the middle of nowhere. How many people are offing themselves or each other to the point that you would need this? That was something I never understood. So we finished up our trip. It was actually awesome. We drove back to Chicago. And I will say there is something about going from a city that's 35 degrees in the winter to a place that's 65 degrees in winter. And more than that, if the sun's out, there's no clouds. So, and that's the story about the time we had to deal with small town police. Because of and by the way, if you're ever in that area, it's actually a beautiful area. There's a lot of rolling hills and woods. back again with another video, Dave Firestone. And some time ago, I told the story in the video, watching other people get expelled, where we had a camping trip in summer camp where one of our less intrepid campers decided it would be a fun idea to take the waterproofing off the tents, not realizing we were going to get hit by a rainstorm. Well, what I didn't mention was that was the second of 3 consecutive trips where everything had gone wrong, and it just made me never want to go into the woods again, and I've pretty much stayed out of the woods since then. So what happens is, my particular hatred for camping started earlier in the year, because our summer camp that year had 2 trips. There was like the little one where we would just go overnight, and then was the big one where the thunderstorm happened that was supposed to be 3 days. Well, the one that happened earlier in the summer, that didn't exactly go to plan either. Now this one was actually one of the more innocuous ones, and you can't even really blame anyone except. Well, let me explain. So we were going to. I couldn't even tell you where specifically this was. I can picture the campsite. I just couldn't tell you where we were, what the name of the place was, or anything. I could tell you that we were 3 hours outside of Chicago, which is critical to this story. So we were in an overnight camping trip. It was overnight Thursday to Friday. We were scheduled to get back to Chicago at about 2 o'clock, meet up with our families, because my grandmother was visiting from New York, which was a big deal. And I did enjoy her visits. She was a lot of fun to be around. So we're going to get everything ready. We're going to get everything ready by 10 o'clock, because we have to factor in Chicago traffic in the summer. I don't know if you've ever been to Chicago, but there are 2 seasons in Chicago: construction and no construction. And I have never seen no construction in Chicago. Anyway, so we break down all our tents, we pack everything up, we're all packed up, we're ready for the bus to come. Bus is supposed to be there at 10:30. And 10:30 comes around, 11:30 comes around, and then at like 12 o'clock, we get the communique that the bus company hadn't sent out a bus to come get us, and the bus they had upgraded us to a coach bus, and the bus would be there by, I think they said 1 o'clock. So 1 o'clock rolls around, nothing. 2 o'clock rolls around, nothing. Finally, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that's when the bus finally shows up. So the earliest we could get back to Chicago is 6. Of course, I didn't factor in Chicago traffic, which there are certain areas in Chicago where at certain times of the day, highways become parking lots. So all told, we didn't get back to HQ until 7, so I didn't get to go out with my grandmother on the first night she was there. And my dad, for whatever reason, was mad at me, like somehow this was my fault, like I was saying, hey, don't send the bus, I want to avoid my grandma. Like, what? Why are you mad at me? I didn't do anything wrong here. So that was the first one. Now we had the rainfly removal, which was in and of itself a stupid move on his part. I hope he gets hit by a freight train, and I don't feel bad for saying that. But then I decided, you know what? I'm not going camping anymore if I can possibly avoid it. Well, junior year, my high school decided we're going to change up the gym curriculum, where after like junior and senior year, you would pick like the specialty classes you would wanted, and they would say, okay, you're in this. So one of the classes I picked was Adventure Ed, which was a lot of fun. I'm not good at rock climbing, so I failed that, but they had like an obstacle course suspended from the ceiling, which you had to complete, which was, quite a bit. It was fun, but it was at the same time difficult. And the final exam, and I'm putting that in quotes, was to go on a 3-day camping trip. And I'm like, okay, what could possibly go wrong? Well, as I found out, going to a camping trip in November, a lot can go wrong. Now, I don't remember the exact place that this happened. I'm never going back there, but I don't remember where it was. Aside from the fact that it was in Illinois on the Mississippi River. So it was an overnight trip, meaning it was only one day. And I was initially excited. We got some new camping gear, and I was ready to go. And the night before, and I don't know why I had this premonition, but something inside me just said something is going to go wrong. I didn't know what it was. I didn't think what could possibly go wrong. I wasn't sure of it. And I was like, so I had to sort of reassure myself, okay, it's going to be fine. So we go there, and we do canoeing. I went fishing, which is always fun in November. I think at one point we got in trouble because some of our campers stole duck decoys from a duck blind, which, that's not exactly the bright thing to do. So a little later on that night, as the day turned to night, it happened. Our counselors said, we're going to go for a sunset hike. When they said that, every synapse of my body was screaming at me, don't go on this. But I decided to see what could go wrong. And well, wouldn't you know who won the pony? A lot did. So, going on a trail when it's in dusk in winter is a bad idea in and of itself. Going off trail and climbing rocks is even more moronic, and that's precisely what happened. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna. I didn't really want to climb it. I'm not gonna risk, falling down the side of a mountain, which is basically what we were. It's not like a tall mountain, but it was like not a. It was a decent sized slope. So I stay there and I help as many people as I can. And after, once some of the last people who were willing to climb go up, there were 4 of us. And at this point, it becomes clear that everyone else has gone back and we're stuck there by ourselves, which is not only dangerous. I'm pretty sure that as the leader of a group, it's illegal to do that. So I don't know why the hell I did this. To this day, I do not understand what possessed me to do this, because one of the girls was completely losing her mind. She was just completely frightened. Oh my God, we're gonna freeze to death, and she's having a panic attack, which is understandable given the circumstances. I just handed her my flashlight, and I'm like, okay, will this help? And I just handed her my flashlight. So the other 3, for whatever reason, decide that they're going to try to climb the rock and figure out the way back from there. I decided to just calm myself down. I had a bottle of water, I had a camera with a flash, and I had my Indiglo watch. So I just said, okay, I'm gonna take the time, I'm gonna calm down, I'm gonna think this out. And I thought about it for a little bit, and I realized that there was a train track that was relatively close to where the entrance to the campground was, and I knew that from where I had a feeling we were, I could, if a train came by, I would know immediately where I was in relation to it, and I'd be able to find my way back. So I sort of calmed down, and I just waited for about, I couldn't even tell you how long it was. To be honest with you, I don't remember how long it was. Could have been 15 minutes, could have been 45 minutes. I wasn't paying attention to that. When I heard the Crossbuck gates light up, I knew where I was. I knew where I had to go. But because I'm on a slope of a mountain, it's now really, really dark. Somehow or other, I do not know how I was able to do this, but I sort of meandered my way through across the side to a more flat area. I wander through like a tall thing of like weeds, or I don't remember what they were, and I come out and I see the entrance to the campground, and I'm like, thank God. And as I see this, a group of my classmates run up, and I go, what are you guys doing here? Oh, we're the search party. Yeah, this is how bad they fucked up. They had to organize a goddamn search party to come find us. And I'm like, well, okay, what did the others say? And they look at me, they go, you're the first one back. So, I like, my elation, like, turned to fear, because again, I didn't even really know them. I really honestly didn't even know them. But I didn't want them to get hurt. You know, I didn't want them to, get lost and freeze to death. And I felt bad. So I went back and I had dinner, and I'm just trying to calm down. And like one of the teachers was I wasn't even acknowledging the teachers at that point. It's the kind of thing where if I started talking to them, I would just wind up killing them. So I said, no, I'm not going to talk to you. And so eventually, I think like an hour after I found my way back, the other three found their way back. And I pretty much said, okay, this is the last time I am ever going camping again. And I said that thinking the worst was over. Boy, was I fucking wrong on that one, because what had happened later on was, remember how I said it was November? This was like the week after Thanksgiving, November. So it just gets really cold really fast. And we go in our tents, and I should point out that the sleeping bag that I had was rated at like 30 degrees. Like, it would keep you warm 30 degrees. I was shivering so uncontrollably, and I had my jacket on. I was wearing like 4 or 5 layers in the sleeping bag, and I was still shivering uncontrollably. And the one thing that had been my savior was the railroad tracks. That actually came back to bite us, because there were so many freight trains that were just driving by all night, making it impossible to sleep. So I remember we went to whatever, it might have been, it was a convenience store that had like hot water for tea, and I just bought a thing of hot water the next day. Because after that, I wasn't even like, it sapped the heat from your body. I would not be surprised. I don't remember if this ever actually came to fruition, but it wouldn't have shocked me if some of our classmates had gotten hypothermia, or at least the very beginning of it, because we were all like shivering and cold. So we get home, and I tell my family what had happened, and I said, I don't care how much you enjoy it. I don't care what trips we take. I am not going in the woods again. And I really haven't. But the story would normally end here, but it actually got a little bit stranger, because I was working at I was working videoing football games for the TV crew, and my mom would take my brother to the games, and my mom's the kind of person where she'll friendly chat with people, and she was chatting with someone and was asking, oh, is your son a student here? And she said, oh yeah. And one thing led to another, and the story of what happened on this camping trip got told to this guy. Now, I didn't realize this at the time, and my mom had no way of knowing this, but the man she was talking to was the assistant superintendent. And he was not happy about what had happened, which is justifiable because there could have been some very serious injuries. There could have even been a death. I mean, I consider it a miracle that I made it out of there. The fact that I even survived that is sometimes kind of scary to me. And the fact that no one got really seriously messed up is it's awesome, but it's, they shouldn't have been in that situation to begin with. So not long thereafter, the camping trip setups were changed significantly. And now now from what I heard, that you went to a Starved Rock instead of, whatever this place near Iowa was. But yeah, it's understandable that the change happened, but I wish there had been some forethought that was put into this trip. But, again, it was a first year thing, so I can sort of maybe forgive them for that, but at the same time I can't. So, yeah, that's why I hate camping. And that's going to be the title for this video, Why I Hate Camping.